Folks, hello, and welcome to Psych 302, User Experience Research. You may or may not know, this is a relatively new course within the department itself, but it's an utterly new course as far as the eCampus is concerned. And so it's something that's been being built and developed over the past several months, most of which was done by other developers and faculty members, things like that, and is only something I actually inherited here recently. So in a very real way, this is a new course for me, and I'm going to be working right alongside with all of you as we make our way through it. But knowing the people who have built it, put it together, everything else, they do fantastic, amazing work, and all of the work that I've been doing and everything else with it. I'm very excited to get to do the course. I'm very excited to get to work with you all in this course over this term. So with that being said, some of you have maybe worked with me before. If not, hello. For better or worse, I'm going to be sort of the captain of this ship. I'm Christopher Collins. I actually live up in Portland and mostly am teaching on the eCampus here. I am a researcher and an experimentalist, though my arena is kind of different from the sort of thing that we're going to largely be doing here. My field is more behavioral neuroscience and comparative animal behavior. So definitely a different flavor from the sort of work that we're going to be doing here, but definitely all of my background in research and methodology and analysis and these kinds of things. Obviously, we're going to be bringing all of that to bear. So just to give you a sense of who you get to be dealing with over these next several weeks. Apologies, I wanted to get this video put together and out to you much more quickly than I did. First week is always chaos. And so I'm finally getting this put together and out to you all. Hopefully you've seen the messages that I have shared so far. Looks like most everybody has gotten into the Canvas shell, gone through at least like the syllabus, and hopefully you've got to, I think I've seen almost all of you have sent me links to the workbook. I'll come on to all of that here in a moment to talk a little bit more about that. But it looks like you're all getting in, dipping your toes, familiarizing yourself sort of with what the expectations are going to be, kind of the layout and the structure of things over these next several weeks. So that's great. And basically what I want to do here, and I'll try to keep it brief, I promise, is just to kind of, particularly in the first week, I know you get syllabused to death. And the syllabi are like 14 pages of boilerplate and just about everything you can imagine. So what I like to try to do, at least in these videos, is to grab onto like the meat and potatoes pieces of the course, the really fundamental parts, give a little bit of explanation, sort of guidance, clarification, that sort of a thing, to try and hopefully get us all sort of on the same page. And mind you, with this one now, it's really more, I just want to kind of get something out that's introductory, get us started on the right foot, give you that flavor for what some of these things are going to look like going forward. But rest assured, as we're kind of making our way and we begin to approach sort of different milestones along the way, that I'll certainly be in touch as we do that to provide more specific, detailed, explanation and what have you in relation to those particular steps. So with that being said, right now it's Wednesday of week 1, so we are on day 3. And so at this stage, hopefully where you are at, as I said, is number 1, familiarized yourself with the Canvas shell a bit, gone through the syllabus. If you have found the lab manual, excellent. And hopefully you've spent a little bit of time looking that over and getting a sense for what that's going to be in these coming days. If you have not yet gotten into the workbook or sent me a shared editing link, please do that as soon as it is possible for you. And the one other thing here in week 1 that's probably key on your end is hopefully you have access to the text that we're using. If you don't, please probably try to get on that also as soon as possible. We're already diving into chapters 1 and 2 this week, and you've maybe seen. I guess this is probably just a good place to start in terms of going through some of these items. So hopefully you've seen what our textbook is. It's listed on the syllabus. It's in the Canvas shell and all of that. And that of the evaluative pieces of the course, the assignments and the things that are going to constitute, the points and the grades, one of the basics right out of the gate is that there are going to be weekly quizzes. Now, understand that with these quizzes, these are not like exams. These are not proctored. You are perfectly welcome to use the book, your notes, materials, whatever it is that you wish to do. The quizzes themselves are very brief, multiple choice, and they are derived specifically from precisely the stuff that we're going through in the readings, in the text. And of course, tangentially, that's going to be related to all the steps that we're taking with the labs and the project and all of that stuff that I'll come on to here in just a second. So just know that those quizzes are going to be each week. They should be very straightforward. To be perfectly honest with you, what they're all about is just kind of a mechanism to ensure that folks are keeping up with the readings, taking in the relevant information that relates to where we're at with the course and where we're at with the projects. And each of those is going to be due on the Friday of each week. I'll come back later to try and touch on some of the stuff in relation to like due dates and flexibility and some of that stuff too. So we'll get there. So textbook, quizzes, hopefully that makes sense to you. You may notice, not that this is particularly important, but if you are familiar with eCampus, for the longest time now, when we've put quizzes and exams and things into the Canvas shell, they have been built within Canvas itself. Now, the university's changing over now to a different program. It shouldn't impact anything on your end of things, but just kind of an FYI that when you click through onto the weekly quizzes relating to the readings, what it's going to end up doing is taking you to a sort of external page that looks a little bit different. It's the exact same thing of what you would be doing in Canvas. It's just a slightly different platform. Everything else will work exactly the same. So part of the only reason that I bring it up is just to say that if you are familiar with doing quizzes in Canvas, you click through and suddenly you're taken to this page that doesn't quite look as familiar. Don't worry about that. That's all part of this shift that's happening. It functions exactly the same, and there shouldn't be any other surprises insofar as that goes. If you do run into any questions or issues or anything like that, from our end, it looks like everything's working splendidly, but I've said that a lot of times before. So please just let me know if there's anything that ends up being a little funky on that end of that stuff. Okay, enough about that. The lab manual that I mentioned. So hopefully you saw as you were going through sort of the Start Here module and the syllabus and the other materials that are in there, that we have a lab manual. So it's a shared Google Doc that each one of you will essentially get a copy for yourself. You'll label it with your name and your contact information and everything else. And that's going to be your sort of touchstone as we make our way through the term, as we go through all the labs, which as you've hopefully seen, all of these labs and all of these steps are essentially a cumulative process that we're working step by step by step towards the overall sort of research proposal, the execution of that. I'll talk about the data and some of that here in a minute. And then ultimately writing up a report similar to what, if you've been in research courses here, we always tend to do the research papers. Generally, they're APA format, and they're in relation to what would be a more typical kind of experimental or study or whatever it might be within psychology. It's a different dynamic here, right? So this course isn't your sort of traditional academic style research course. This is really geared more towards things that would be in the business world, things that are going to be, for better or worse, group kinds of projects. I'll come back to that in a moment. But the lab manual is going to be, as I say, sort of the touchstone. This is the step-by-step weekly increments that we build the entirety of our project and everything that follows from that onto that. So once you have your copy of the lab manual, you've put your appropriate information on it, you've shared the link with me so that I will be able to access those things. Again, some of you may be familiar having done this in other courses. If you have not, what you're going to see is with the weekly lab submissions, you will just be filling in that Google Doc. Week 1, you'll be doing the sections pertaining to that. And when you get to the page that says, here's where you submit your lab for week 1, week 4, week 7, whatever the case may be, you will simply be just submitting the link that goes to that particular Google document of yours. And when I click through to each of you and go through your labs, I will just follow the link that will just then take me to your particular Google document in which you've worked through those particular pieces for that particular lab. And as I've already alluded to, that's going to be this interlocking, building upon itself thing that's going to lead itself to the overall project. Now, I alluded, you've already seen this, of course, but I alluded to the fact that this is going to be a group-oriented course. Now, this is the part I'm probably not supposed to say, which is I loathe group work. I hate it with a deep, abiding, burning passion deep inside of my dark black heart. That being said, the very nature of this course, this isn't your traditional academic research course. This is geared more towards what would be like a business institution or places where group projects are the name of the game. It's an inescapable reality. And so for us to do anything that would be different from that would honestly be a disservice, towards the end of what the goal of this course would be. So as you have surely seen, you are going to be grouped into small groups of individuals. I'm going through that right now and trying to get the details established so that I can get that set for you, hopefully here before the day is out. But you will be working in these small groups in which you will, as that group, collectively be working on a project together. Now, let me tie that back really quick to a couple of the things that I just covered. As far as the quizzes and the textbook go, that doesn't really relate to your group, right? You're doing that individually. You do your readings, you'll do your quiz. Now, the labs, you're going to see that these differ. And there are going to be different steps along the way. You're going to be asked to do different things in relation to where we happen to be at that time. Sometimes it'll be extraordinarily obvious that what you're doing is you as an individual filling out your lab, submitting your lab, getting your grade. There will be other times upon which these labs are going to be your group. You will collectively be working on the things that go into those labs. That said, despite the fact that it is a group project, a group collective, you are still going to be filling in your lab manual with the information in relation to what you've been doing in that group. And you will, as an individual, be submitting the link each time for the labs toward your Google Doc. Now, I'm not an uptight person, if you can't already tell. So I'm not going to be hyper vigilant about whether or not each one of you is very, very unique in the way that you write these things out, describe them. Quite frankly, when you're doing these as a group, even though you're going to submit the labs sort of individually, if you have managed to collectively kind of put together the verbiage, the ideas, the explanations of what you have going on in those labs, I am not opposed to you all just sharing that information. Now, you still need to put it in your own document, submit it on your own so that I can get those points to you. But it does seem silly to me that there would be some requirement that every single person in your group has their own unique way of explaining exactly the same damn information. So take that for what it's worth, that even though you do need to submit these things on your own individually for your points, your grade, you can share however you wish to within your group, and that is perfectly acceptable. Okay. Speaking of the groups then, now, as I already kind of said a short while ago, I don't have you plugged into those groups yet. That's what I'm working on right now. I wanted to get this out to you first. So I will have you grouped here very, very shortly. I'll have all that information out to you. And you may or may not, again, have worked in courses in which you have a specific group to which you're assigned. And so, I don't know the best way to sort of describe this. If you're not familiar and this doesn't make sense, which seems pretty likely already, then I'm happy to try and explain it a bit further or answer any questions along the way, of course. But we have our collective Canvas course, right? The whole Canvas course where we click through, we all access the discussion forums, we all access the lab manuals, we all access the quizzes, those kinds of things. But within our overall Canvas shell, you are also going to have a subgroup for just you and the other individuals who are in the group that you're working with. And so, again, maybe you're familiar. If not, I can try to maybe load something a little bit later that shows exactly what that looks like. But over on the left-hand side, once I have you in these groups, alongside all of your other selections that you can make in the shell, should be a link that goes to your specific group. And so unlike our general shared overall Canvas shell where all of us from the course come and collect, that particular corner is just for you and the few other people in your group. And what you're going to find in there is that you have access to all the same kinds of tools, resources, and things that we would in the overall course, but that they will only be shared with you and the other folks that are in your group. So that is to say, within the overall course, we have the overall discussion forums. Within your group, you also have places where you can have discussions. Now, particularly given that this is eCampus, that working in groups looks a lot different, right, than cordoning people off into a classroom and having these people work in this corner and you work in that corner. You guys are all on your own corners of the world and probably working semi-asynchronously. Some of you are going to be doing some work and making contributions during the mornings. Other of you have jobs and you're not going to be able to come to it until later that night. So having this little sort of sub-Canvas shell for you and your group should hopefully give you a platform in which you guys can work, even if it is super asynchronously and people are scattered all over the place. You can create your own discussion forum, and each of you in the group can then participate within that discussion. If you want to make an announcement, you can go to announcements within the group and say, hey, folks, just FYI, I did X, Y, and Z, or we still need blah, blah, blah. You understand what I mean. So just know that that's available to you and that this is up to you. I know that these days in a lot of courses like this, folks have been using different platforms, Discord and others, where you sort of go to this external shared place where you can interact and work and do a lot of the same kinds of things that I'm describing to you right now. And you're still welcome to do that. But just understand that the fact that you have that ability within Canvas, within your own little group, that if you chose to go work on this external platform, I have no access to that. And so if you have questions, if you want me to look something over, if you want me to engage your group or in a conversation, to look at things, you understand what I mean. If it's here in Canvas, I can go right in there. I can access all those things and we can just work together. If you're choosing to work somewhere else, that's going to be more difficult. Obviously, I can't access those things, so you're going to have to bring all of the relevant information and those kinds of things to me for us to be able to do that. And I guess that's a access point for me to emphasize. I say this to all my classes, but particularly in a class like this, I think it's important to understand that I view my role in this course is to be as involved as you want me to be. Now, in a typical course where everybody's doing their own completely individual work, I always make the point that, a solid 90% of the people that take most of the other kinds of courses, they don't want to have anything to do with the instructor. They want to show up, do their work, submit it, and go about their life. And 9 times out of 10, I don't even have any direct contact with most of the students. Still, handfuls of others definitely do want to have the interaction. They value having the faculty member there and someone they can ask questions with or meet with, work with. And, with a lot of those students, I have people on the full other end of the spectrum where I will meet with them weekly on Zoom and things like that to work with them. Now, this course, of course, never mind, is a little different with the group situation. So I still put out my same disclaimer here, which is I want to be as involved as you want me to be. If you are working together really cohesively and really well as a group, and you're very happy to kind of have that autonomy and that independence, I'm not going to come shove myself into the middle of all of that and stick my nose where it isn't asked to be. So if that's your prerogative, I absolutely respect that, and that's not a problem at all. If, on the other hand, you want my involvement, it's helpful to be able to talk things through, ask questions, get feedback, guidance, and those kinds of things, that's why I'm here. Kind of the whole reason I'm here. So it's easier to figure out when you're just working on your own as an individual. It's a little bit different, right, when you get into group dynamics and different personalities and prerogatives and all those kinds of things. But that's part of what we're practicing and working on here too, isn't it? Interpersonal relations. So I will leave that to you to determine how much or how little you want me to be involved in all of this. And all I need from my end is just for you to communicate that to me. So please don't be a stranger in letting me know what you need. Okay, what else was I going to say about all this? I'm already running. How long have I been talking? Holy shit. Okay, I need to make this a little bit shorter. So, okay, I'm going to get you grouped. ASAP, I will have that information out to you. With this week, as I already said, hopefully you have accessed the course, the syllabus, familiarized yourself. You got the lab workbook, the lab manual, that kind of a thing, and have shared it with me. Hopefully you are doing the readings, chapters 1 and 2, because that quiz is already this week. We are kind of hitting the ground running with this course. And then as we're going to now make our way, once I have you grouped, once you guys can kind of start that communication process within your group, go into the lab manual, start to get a feel, because already what we're going to be looking at is what kind of a project are you interested in? We're going to spend the next 10 weeks into 11th with the finals week focused on these projects. And so the number one thing that you'll want to do is to get in communication with your group, come to some kind of conclusion about the direction in which you are going to want to go. And I guess what I won't cover right now is some of the other things that we're going to encounter down the line, which is you're going to develop a proposal. We'll talk about that as we approach that time. You are going to design, create, come up with the methods, the approach, everything that kind of pertains to how this project is going to go. And then hopefully you've also seen that unlike other courses where you have to go out, actually gather data and this kind of a thing, it's not really a tractable option in this kind of a course. And so what's ultimately going to happen as you have come up with your proposal, as you have designed the study that you wish to do, when it gets to the point at which that would be implemented, I am going to create data for you. So I will create a data set that is representative of the kind of data that you would obtain in the study that you've proposed, designed, and are implementing. Then we will analyze that data, and then that will move towards ultimately what's going to be your research report, or the equivalent of what would be our research paper in any other kind of a research course. And then one more piece attached to that, which is each one of your groups then too will give a presentation on this project. Again, in the interest of time here, I won't dive too much into that. As we approach that time, I will talk more about that. In essence, this is going to be the presentation of, here's the background of this topic we were interested in. Here's the proposal that we put forward. Here's the methods by which we wanted to accomplish those things. Here's what our analysis of this sort of faux data came up with, and here are the conclusions based on that. Again, as I say, I'll talk later about how you can kind of put those presentations together, how that's going to work best as you are working collectively as groups rather than as individuals. And what was the other? There was one more thing I wanted to add to that, and I'm completely spacing on what that was now. So all the more reason I'm gonna have to send you more videos down the line. Okay, this is almost a half an hour long now, so I'm gonna leave it there. I hope that that's helpful, at least as far as kind of getting the course started, getting us off to this whole process this week, understanding where we are and at least what the next big steps are going to be in these coming days and going into the weeks. So I'll leave it at that. I hope this helps. If you have questions, please let me know. Again, that's why I'm here. And outside of that, I'm excited to not only to just get to do this course, but I'm very excited to get to work with all of you. We're a reasonably small class, and your groups will be reasonably small. And so that's nice, because provided it's something you want, it gives me the opportunity to get to know you a bit better, work with you a bit more closely. And so, yeah, I'm stoked about that. Okay, folks. I hope everything is off to a good start for you, and I will definitely be in touch as I get everything else tied up on my end. So take care. Talk soon. Cheers.